Looks like we're live. It is a few days before Christmas, and I have to head back out into the fray pretty soon here. But we thought we would catch a minute to live stream before the week goes totally away. Are you ready for Christmas?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I guess. I think I bet I've done all the shopping I need to do, so I'm done with that. But I don't know. I'm not ready for Christmas. I am excited about the meal, the prime or the rib roast we have, the beef rib roast. I'm super excited about that.
I am really hopeful that this year we won't feed it to our dog.
That's what happened last year. Yeah, we had a great roast last year, and then the dog tore it off the table. So
Yeah, and they charred him with teeth. Yes. I I am not done shopping, and I haven't started wrapping, and I haven't nailed down everything for the Christmas pageant, and I feel like the house is in chaos. So
the house is in chaos. It's fine.
kind of, yeah, it's kind of in chaos. So, and I also feel like we shouldn't really talk, you know, politics and church stuff the week of Christmas, but we're going to do it anyway because it's not like everybody stops and behaves themselves over the Christmas week.
Right.
So, well, some people said that when Kristen, I posted. So this is so great. Some of you wrote in about what we should talk about.
What she said?
Kristen says, I want to discuss how traumatizing it is that my predictive text yields bozo every time I type bishop.
Yeah. Huh. That's great. What was it like? I used to put in um sin. I was trying in my old phone. I would put in sin, and it would change it to win. Like WI.
Yeah,
I'm a sinner. I'm a winner.
yeah.
So
I feel like that still does. Yes, the Bumpus how those are from
that's the Christmas story.
Story and
Yeah, yeah. Yes, Bunter would be a great cast member
dog
of his hounds.
for that. Basically, what happens.
Although we were finished with it, we did how
We
we
had
could
leftovers. We would have had them the next
yeah, we
day.
had no leftovers because Bunter can't control
I
himself. Food.
On a question of Bishop and Bozo, I've already said this, but I have absolutely stopped using Grammarly. So I just write like in the olden days, and it's really great. And it's really awful as you're typing something to have some other being, I guess, the AI suggesting things to you in the middle of your thought. You want to write Bishop and it thinks you want to write Bozo. That's such a huge intrusion, and it ought not be so.
Well, I think Grammarly, like it's a bad writer too. It doesn't under
Yeah,
it doesn't understand the writing craft. It's
it's very bad.
a bad beat. It's a bad demon. So,
It's a bad demon. It is a stupid, stupid, stupid demon. So I might actually be on the ride home with John and Kathy right now if you're in Pittsburgh. But I taped earlier this afternoon and they asked me about the ChatGPT article that I wrote about on Sunday. And I didn't really say anything about this in the article, but the person refers to ChatGPT as a demon, but in a non, you know, what's the judge, not a non judgmental, like it's a neutral fact. It is a demon. That's just what it is. It's not like a really negative thing. We just basically live with demons and we're fine with it, I guess. seems,
Evens down.
yes. So I, uh, I agree. I think it's pretty great though that it says bozo instead of bishop. Okay, so then Larry said Ruck verdict question mark. So we should talk about that. I don't know that there's anything more particularly, but we should talk about it again.
Well, there was that.
Pardon? Then I would like to I would like to talk about Dame Mullally, Sarah Mullally, who's going to be the next Archbishop of Canterbury, because I watched two short videos about the people who are upset with her. And so I do think that would be worth discussing. So, but let's do Bishop Ruck. What did
Well, there
anything
was
happen?
that. Well, there was that letter that was intended to be a petition to the College of Bishops for um, the review of the case, um, uh, just to see if everything was done right. And it was signed mostly by ACNA two. I'm sorry, by C4SO people, and some in South Carolina and some in uh, uh, Christ Our Hope. But very, it doesn't seem to have gotten a lot of favor. The interesting thing I thought about the letter, one of the interesting things was that they had a section for non-ACNA clergy members and lay people to sign it. Why would we? Why would you have if this is a petition to the ACNA College of Bishops? Why would you put either former AC? I think it's former ACNA two, former ACNA members to sign the thing. Which good news. Um, one of those former members is listed there was uh, is Scott McKnight, which means apparently that he's left the ACNA. Thanks be to God. Um, I'm super happy about that if that's the case. He's still apparently a member of the diocese for the sake of others, which I'm not sure how you do that, but um, that's the case. ACNA two C4, so same difference, right? Yes, yes, same thing. I really love how the court. I mean, everything that I've been saying about ACNA two and others have been saying about ACNA two for the last 4 or 5 years, the court said, right? So it's not just me. It's not just uh, cranky people online. It's actually now the official trial court verdict has recognized that HNA2 is a force for chaos and disunity and slander, actually, in a lot of ways, in the uh, in the church. Um, and I think you said it um, very well, that if you can't get that one basic thing right about sexuality, if you can't understand basic human sexuality and you think it's fine for men to be women or men or try to be men or try to be women or whatever, vice versa, or that it's okay for two people of the same sex to have sex, then you don't have the moral qualifications to make judgments about right or wrong in the sexual sphere. You can't do that. Um, and it's the advocacy aspect of it. We victims do need advocates. People who actually have been abused sexually need advocates. But the problem with AZNA two is that, and I forgot who pointed this out online recently or on X recently, but it wasn't me. This is not my original thought. But the particular strain of quote unquote survival advocates that have taken center stage now um, have adopted kind of the culturally Marxist framework of that you see with regard to CRT, where or any of the critical theories, where there's everything is reduced to a binary between power and non-power. And
Megan
um,
Bassman, you said this.
oh yeah, Megan Basham put this. Everything's reduced to a binary, and you have to fit everything into that binary. Like who's got power? The people with power are evil. People without power are good. And of course, the people who are recognizing this are um, the people driving the show. So um, the abuse narrative is working out in the same way. So you're either an abuser or you're a victim. You're either and if you're not if you know if you're not echoing the language and the tactics of organizations like ACNA2, then no matter whether you really do care about victims or not, you're classed as an abuser or as an ally of an abuser because you have to adopt the ideology, not to be an abuser. But if you don't adopt the ideology, you're an abuser, and if you do, or an ally of an abuser, and if you do, then you're either a victim or an ally of the victim. You're an advocate. So it's a replay of what we saw with critical race theory, with um, the, the feminist, Marxist feminist uh, narrative. But now they're using abuse as a tool to impose their ideology on organizations. It's Marxism, Patrick. I mean, it's very 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 clearly so, and that's why they shouldn't have any access to any position of power or authority. And people are wanting to call in ACNA2 and have them oversee the trials, oversee the legal proceedings at the church. And oh no, that would be the most. I
I mean, it's not like there doesn't need to be serious reform or people don't need to change the way they think or act or how the church is structured, maybe even. I mean,
Well, there are Title IV reforms that are in play. I mean, granted, I mean the previous Title IV stuff was bad. I mean, it was not specific enough. It didn't like if you're on a board of inquiry or you're on the trial court, you're not quite exactly sure what your job is. There's some broad specifications, but you're not quite sure where your authority begins, where it ends, what you're supposed to be doing. So, uh, so yeah, it's good that we have the reforms that we're going to have the reforms that we're going to have in Title IV. But so yeah, and the Rupp trial was I think it was the first one under those old canons, and it just it was it was a fiasco. I mean, uh, that not meaning no casting no aspersions on the members of the court. It was just they didn't they were doing it for the first time. Think of the things that happened during this trial. There was COVID. Um, there was a change in Archbishop administration. It was a lot of things happened that served to not make the thing go fast. Presentments were offered in ways that couldn't be received by the trial court or uh, um, by the judicial court. So just a lot of things were not good about this trial. Um, and I think I forget who it was. My mind is so bad, but some legal person was suggesting that we do need a legal staff at the provincial level who are paid to help these things go forward because everybody on the board of inquiry is not paid by the province. Those are all volunteers who have to do everything, and it's a lot. It's a lot of work on the court too. I don't think it was paid to be on the court. You're there as a volunteer basically, in addition to your other jobs. So this it, yeah. So hopefully the Wood trial or the Wood investigation and I guess it's going to trial now. The Wood trial and the Jones trial will be better, done better. So
so what do you make of the people who just don't accept the verdict of this court and think that it was corrupt? And the star witness or the expert witness for the province, I've heard everybody say that she's not worth anything or that she can't be trusted. And so they won't accept. I mean, that's what it seems like this letter is and all the signatories. They don't accept the trial. And, do we just ignore them? Like, what do you do if
I mean,
people don't believe it?
I think ultimately the only way to get um, get a better people advocating for actual victims is to ignore these people. Um, let them go and talk and say what they want to say, but don't give them what they want. And um,
And
so
then work on having an actual victim advocacy
yeah.
group
See, because the
in
problem,
the ACA.
yeah, where I was going,
You know,
yeah, where I was going with what I was mentioning about the cultural Marxism here is that it doesn't help victims because you expand the notion of what a victim is under the if you only have that binary category of victim or abuser or allies of either one, you expand it. So a woman who is in an adulterous affair with someone who has a position of power over her becomes an abuse victim, just like a 10-year-old girl who has some older man like violate her. And then there's I don't think I think the girl is definitely a victim. The person who's been in an affair, maybe if she's in a subordinate position, she doesn't bear as much responsibility for the sin as the person in the higher place does. But she's not necessarily an abuse victim. I mean, it would depend on every core how exactly things panned out. But if they were adults and consenting to this thing, then you can't call that person an abuse victim. You might want to call her, I don't know.
well, we used to have a lot of different names to call the bad actions of people. You know, you could have cads and leches and uh, opportunists. I mean, there can be a lot of different names for sinful, different ways to describe terrible sin
Right.
that are, we can have gradations of bad behavior, bad motivations, bad personality traits. It's all disappeared, and we have the spectrum. So you can have autism, or you can be a narcissist. Those are kind of the two options. Like everything has flattened, just like the very ugly architecture that we have now springing up everywhere.
Yeah.
And the movies are all bad and the food is bad. There are no linguistic descriptions for different kinds of sin. There's abuse. You are either abused or an abuse apologist for you or an
The only the
abuser.
only way the only way sexual sex can be non-abusive is if the two people are on totally equal planes and with regard to the power differential. Otherwise, you can't have consensual sexual relations according to the ideology. Um, let's see, leches.
Interesting comment.
What is the biblical text for advocates for victims? Yeah, right. I mean, there's, I mean, there is there are definitely biblical texts for people who are defending the weak and the helpless, and people who are actual victims need people to do that. Um, and but they need people to do that um, who are not trying to push an ideology and use the person's pain for that purpose.
The
So
person who cares about the widow and the fatherless.
yeah,
It's supposed to be everybody who taken care of. There are people who go after the weak and the vulnerable and the people who have no help and nobody to guard and protect them. So there needs to be
yeah,
strong people who come along and take care of those people. And when Jesus sees the widow throw her two mites into the coffers of the temple, he curses the whole thing. And
right.
so he's very angry about the devouring of the widow's houses, which is a really moving and terrible image. So I guess today we would say she's an abuse victim. Okay, but like that's just
I don't think we
because
should
it
use that
doesn't
language.
really work that
We
way.
shouldn't use that language for that. Yeah, yeah. I,
Eliminate the latches. Yes,
I don't think we should use the word. I mean, if everything is abuse, then nothing's abuse. Right? The
then
same thing.
nothing is abuse.
If everything's racism, then nothing's racism. You've
And
got
the thing is, just saying everything is abuse. In fact, there still is abuse, just like there still is racism. So you're you're
yeah.
really making it worse. You're not helping the people you are purporting to help. And
Well,
so,
right. Um. Yeah. So the this one person who's I'm not sure if she's actually on ACNA too, but she Marissa Bird, who wrote the book about parenting, um, and she thinks the spanking is abuse. Like there's so this is how it works. So there are children who are actually abused by their parents physically, who are beaten, right?
right.
Who need to be
Abuse.
rescued from that situation because their parents are horrible to them. But if you put those children into the category of a kid who's spanked and blend them together, you're not helping the children who are really abused. You're you're doing them harm actually because you've muddied the waters so much that abuse then loses its like we said
Yeah.
loses its meaning. So
So the bishop,
Jesus and the bishops and the priests are the advocates, right? Yeah, I mean they're supposed to be advocating for the actual people who are really being abused in situations. Actually, absolutely. Um,
yeah, and diluting resources because then
yeah,
it's just what are you spending your money on? How much money was spent to bring Bishop Rock to trial? I mean, it can have a little bit of whataboutism. How much money did it cost the ACNA to enact this trial
I mean,
at a time when people are poor? Our congregation is poor, and we have poor people in our church. And, somebody could have sent us a grant to fill our pantry. And,
or start our school. Yeah,
yeah, I
the
mean, like, where is all this money? I, I'm
there were
just,
three separate investigations done, a private
yeah,
investigation, which cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this was not a cheap thing. This is a very expensive thing, and it was very confusing. Um, how all the parts work together. If you listen to the latest Stand Firm, I wasn't on that one. I couldn't be there, but they interviewed Chad. I can't remember his last name, but one of the former provincial prosecutors, and he helped me understand the inner workings of the court, the processes that go on, and um, why this particular trial was so difficult. Um, so go listen to that if you want to
okay,
hear it.
well, we can still talk about the Rupp trial, but I want to say something before I get it because I think I'm getting really forgetful. One thing I really appreciated about the verdict and reading the 70 pages was that it ultimately sounded Christian to me. Like, I'm sure there's so many problems and people don't believe in them, but the way that they wrote and talked about the church and Bishop Brooks seemed to me Christian. Like I, as a believer and Anglican, could enter into this world and feel comfortable with what was the way things were expressed and how things were talked about. So I just watched these two short videos about Sarah Mullally, Bishop or Dame Bishop Sarah Mullally, who is the Bishop of London, but she's going to be the next Archbishop of Canterbury, enthroned in January. And she is being, I don't quite understand. While she was Bishop of London, a secret dossier was leaked full of the names of clergy who had supposedly done very bad things. And one of the people whose names was in this list ended up committing suicide. And it seems that some of the things in this, um, some of the people in this were not guilty of the things it listed. That so there's gossip and innuendo, which is something that ACNA is getting used to thinking about. And uh, Bishop Sarah Mullally chose not to look at any of the reports associated with this, but
She
sent it on to the experts. And then this person ended up committing suicide, a priest in the Diocese of London. Okay, it's really sordid because the priest who committed suicide is clearly gay. And the different people that and he's accused of molesting children or something like that, which he says he didn't do, and then he died, killed himself. So some of the people who are interviewed, like one of the clergy who's on the General Synod, clearly comes across as very, you know, non-heterosexual. And then they interview somebody who was on the safeguarding committee. And she was so stressed by what it was like being on this committee that she attempted suicide and ended up being in the hospital and was forced to sign a non-disclosure act that she would say nothing bad about the Diocese of London, which she then broke to talk to the press. Um, it it sounds like it's a deep and terrible dark mess. But watching the two videos, which a cracker linked in the comments if you want to go and check them out. One's 9 minutes, one's 15 minutes. At no point do any of the people talking, especially any of the ones wearing collars, sound like Christians. At no point do they sound Christian, not even a tiny bit. And when you think about what's going on, I guess if all of this is real, it's so stressful to be a cleric or associated with the Church of England. Oh, one of the ones said he is on the General Synod. He has had to start taking antidepressants because it's so stressful to be in his job. The clergy, people associated with the church, are in such despair, bleak, horrible despair, that they are taking their own lives, being hospitalized, and having to take antidepressants.
Well, if you could just be accused of something and have your name circulated as a as a criminal, I mean, that's extremely stressful and horrible. That's you know, I don't know why we think that in our day and time, uh, the biblical category of slander doesn't quite matter anymore when it comes to things like the accusation of someone in power. But I mean, I really do think it has a lot to do with um, a lot to do with the cultural Marxist thing we were talking about earlier. Because the aim there is to tear down those who are perceived to be in power or have privilege, then it's an act of justice to slander them or to put out accusations against them, and try to take them down, which is a revolutionary act. I mean, I've said this on Stand for a couple weeks ago. This whole thing is so Jacobin. This whole thing is so French Revolution. Um, we will make an accusation against you, and the accusation itself, the seriousness of the charges are enough to have your head cut off. Um,
It, well, I can't remember what I was going to say. The um, at the very end of one of the videos, they are interviewing a woman cleric in the Diocese of London because Sarah Mullally carefully chose not to read any of the reports and shunted them to experts so that she would somehow not be implicated. And the reporter is asking, how is she then able to safeguard if, or to, and she's the head of the church. So it is her responsibility if anything goes wrong with anyone in the diocese, which is actually true. The reporter says a spiritually true thing. And the cleric comes back insisting that the way that she enacts her responsibility is by refusing to look at any of the information and send it on to the experts is the way that she enacts her spiritual responsibility.
Wow.
And it, it's really amazing. It's like, I know Cracker says, I don't see how they survive this. I don't think they survive this. Uh, it's not, it is very dark. It's not
Well, it's
even
already not a
close.
church. It's already
Yeah,
ceased to be a church, but
right,
uh, uh, not every congregation within the CB, but the CB as a whole. There's no there's no head, there's no body. It's not a church.
right.
Um, so so it doesn't survive. I don't think. Um, but she crosses all the T's and dots all the I's, not just because she's a woman, but because she also is a very liberal woman. She's very affirming, right? And so she's heretical in her faith. She's not a Christian. Um, but when we say that, we're not talking about her eternal destiny. We're talking about whether she lies within the bounds of orthodoxy, and she doesn't. Um, so her election was just the death knell. Um, it was the final shovel of dirt into the grave. Um, now it's done. Of course, God can raise the dead, so we can pray that He does that. But the CB is gone, as we knew it. It's a sad thing. See, gossip is one of the seven deadly sins. We take it much too lightly. Yes, yeah. There's a distinction between slander and gossip. Slander is when you purposefully, or well, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be on purpose. If you spread a word about someone that even if you don't know whether it's true or not, the not knowing whether it's true or not and still spreading the word is slander. You're that's you've decided to steal your brothers or your sisters or even a pagan's reputation. And then the difference between that and gossip is it could be gossip can be true. Um, you could have a true story about somebody, and so you're not slandering them. But the question is, what business is it of yours or anybody else's to hear the news? And why are you telling it? Um, so, so I think you're right. That's the gossip, and the gossip is definitely not something that is really dealt with, especially now with social media. X is basically a gossip place where people gossip. It's a gossip circle. Like it's worse than a bunch of ladies with their quilting. So, um, so or that was probably sexist. I shouldn't have said that.
Don't throw shade. Yeah, don't throw shade on quilting ladies. We have a lot of
Quilting ladies are very powerful, and
really
they
nice
do
ladies who
wonderful ladies.
quilt.
I know some wonderful ladies who quilt, so please forgive me for
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
didn't mean it that way.
but don't slander the quilting community for being gossips when you don't
Right.
even know. Uh,
This is true.
wait, there's another comment here you should read because I can't see very well.
It, it's astounding. This is Cracker Pacific. It's astounding too that the bishops act as though there is any actual prestige among them these days. They act as though it is still an imperial institution with any weight, while also hating their history and removing the weight of their offices. Yeah, I know. It's the bishops are engaged and he's talking about the bishops of the Church of England. They're engaged in the death work, right? They're actively um, uh, uh, destroying the traditions that the institution was founded to protect and mocking, holding up for mockery and disdain. And so it's a what was that? I forgot who the philosopher was, but Carl Truman mentioned this thing you see in late stage near death organizations, institutions, societies, which is where the thinkers begin to engage in death work, where they hold up symbols of that were used to be sacred to people, and they for lack of a better word, they defecate on. They make and literally like that's what the chief icon for that for Carl Truman, one of the ones he used anyway, was the piece of art called the Piss Christ. Remember this? For the I forgot who the artist was, but he lowered a crucifix into a vat of urine, and it was art. It was considered art. But no, it was a death work. It was what late stage dying societies do. Um, and 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 think of it as profound and really, yeah, wow, this is so heavy and thoughtful. No, it's just it's someone being like a 13-year-old. And no, I'm sorry. I know 13-year-olds are much more mature than that.
Again, don't slander the 13-year-old community.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
You're really full of
yeah.
it today.
I know.
The the knitting ladies. Yeah. No, you can't. I I do commend these two videos. The journalist is the person who Jordan Peterson or who interviewed Jordan Peterson all those years ago about the lobsters. She became a meme and she's aged. It was really odd to watch. Like I guess we've all aged since those old days, the early days with Jordan Peterson. But it's it is grotesque to see people wearing collars being interviewed and talking about church matters, talking about safeguarding, describing how so many of them want to kill themselves and they have nothing to live for except to do each other down. I, I was like, I get really discouraged about, things are bad, but my gosh, we are nowhere. The ACNA is like heaven come down to earth compared to if you
Yeah,
go watch those just in terms of culture, go watch those two videos. And then, yeah, I know that the provincial office is a wreck or whatever, and we're all sinners, but my goodness, if you're a Christian of any kind, you're in such great shape compared to the average C of E cleric who has nothing to live for except for, I guess, a paycheck from the government every month. But really, you should take heart and enjoy the feast because you probably have meaning in your life and purpose, and you're probably about to have a nice Christmas dinner, and it's probably not that bad because you have Jesus. Wow, it's pretty great. Um, oh, good. He's not offended.
we know some.
Yes. Wait. James Gibson says, isn't Mullally's failure to safeguard pretty much similar to what we just went through with the rough trial? So there are definitely some similarities. Um, she's being accused of basically causing the death of this person. It's saying that she has blood on her hands because his name was on this list and she didn't take any action. Actually, Bishop Ruck looks like, uh, uh, was, what's that called? A Navy SEAL in terms of first response compared to the descriptions of Sarah Mullally. He was way more
Yeah, I mean, he took.
proactive than this person. So she might really actually be in trouble because it looks like she did not do anything and shut down people from moving things up the line. Um, None of which it looks like Bishop Ruck did. But yeah, it seems like it's a similar kind of thing that's happening in the Church of England. So it, they should have looked to us to see how to handle this kind of thing
Yeah.
because we did a better job.
Thank you, Lisa. As a knitter and a quitter, I'm not offended. Thank you. I did not mean to.
You're you're slandering everyone
I've
today.
got to stop. I've got to be quiet. Maybe 5 o'clock in the evening is not a good time to do this.
I know maybe we're at the end of the coffee. And wait, read the next one here. Well,
We ought to be more conscious of our fallen nature and the evil that can come from each of us, which leads us to repentance. After Epiphany, the whole church needs to be in a season of repentance even before that.
yeah, maybe.
Well, I do think, whatever you think about the Rupp trial, I mean, I think a good case can be made that the ACNA is under some kind of disciplinary movement by God, that that we are being called to account for something. Uh, I I believe it's for our our because we've been hirelings with regard to orthodoxy in the ACNA. We haven't taken strong action. The moment we began to hear the same kind of talk we heard in the Episcopal Church, should have been the moment that the Orthodox bishops took action. Um, and so that they didn't take action, well, that puts us where we are. I mean, there shouldn't be now, what is it now, six uh, churches coming out of one diocese that have been shown to be affirming without some kind of action being taken. Right, here we are. So now the hope is, I mean,
And I've been super. I mean, we've been watching this drip, drip, drip for five
yeah,
years, maybe 10, almost since the inception of the organization. And it's been pretty discouraging to be laboring away. I keep thinking I'm loyal to the institution. I I was a loyal Episcopalian. I'm willing to endure a lot. I don't want to fly off the handle. You don't have to be perfect. I don't like
but
purity spirals. You don't have to. Of course, you're a sinner, but this drip, drip, drip of progressivism out of a couple of dioceses and bishops who just didn't do anything uh, has been very discouraging and wearying
yeah,
over the last decade.
yeah. I mean, it's absolutely so that's why we're divided right now because the people who are dividing us, as Paul says that I mean that the word for heresy in Greek is the word you could also translate, or the word we get the word that we get our English word heresy from is a Greek word that means division, and that's what happened. Heresy causes division, and so the first time we had people repenting of their whiteness in the ACNA, we should have said, okay, well, you can go do that in the Episcopal Church because that's not happening here. The minute we had people forming book groups around what's the white fragility, the book White Fragility in the ACNA, we should have said, okay, well, there's a better place for that to go on, not here, because we're not racists. but but during the uh, coming out the BLM stuff was at its height during COVID, and that's when all this stuff started happening. And so these people came into the ACNA. I think a lot of these people came into the ACNA right before COVID, and from Wheaton and other places, and just started pushing this kind of this culturally Marxist narrative within certain dioceses, and they gained the ascendancy in these dioceses, and our bishops did nothing. And here we are. They're going to get stronger until we take a stand, until we say no, you can't do this, and find some way to take action. I mean, one of the problems is our polity is so it's more of a confederation than an actual church. It's hard to get. It's hard for one diocese to do anything about what happens in another diocese. Um,
But there
so
are other ways of making things happen. Like it, it's kind of awful if you have to lead solely on legislative
yeah,
action. It really should be a cultural and a social situation where we sound deeply Christian. We are deeply committed to the basic actions of Christianity, and there's forgiveness is at the heart. There's no tolerance for fake kinds of reconciliation. There's no People are attuned and can hear wrong, wrong fake gospels, and
yeah,
they don't tolerate it at the local level, at the diocesan, at the provincial level. We don't have like, oh, fake, like, oh, let's pray about it. But really, we are just doing a sort of bureaucratic, ideological grinding machine that spits people out. No, like if we're going to talk about prayer, we're really praying to God through Jesus Christ. We're not across. churches so that there's a recommitment at year 16 or whatever to being really formed by the gospel. There's a new reformation or something, and the church
Yeah.
deepens and grows a spine and decides it to be for real.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Mark says, not to mention that churches are affirming and pretending not to be. Yeah, yes. I mean, I think the Christ our Advocate Church is actually affirming. It's just pretending not to be. It says as much on its website, and that's another C4SO church. And then Cracker Episcopalian says, maybe even now, why not? I know we are coming into the 12 days of Christmas, but there needs to be a huge cleanup led by prayer and fasting. Yeah, no, I think that's really right because this is one of those situations where you feel helpless. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this?
Maybe we should pray.
And maybe we should pray.
What?
Has it come to that?
I have been praying though, and I feel like
Yeah.
God has not been listening to me. So maybe other people have to pray as well as just me by myself. I'm probably not enough to call down God's action in the world.
Well, my hope is that this. I really was encouraged reading the right verdict because it, like you say, it was sounded Christian, like the former provincial prosecutor said. Chad, I can't remember his last name. In his article, he wrote about it. He said, "Well, one of the great, wonderful thing about the verdict is it upheld the the principle of justice that if you're accused of something, you are innocent until proven guilty, right? You can't just the accusation is not enough to make you guilty, right? Um,
How how annoying though that our we're really grateful that the documents sounded Christian. Like the
right,
fact that I have to keep being like, "Yay, it sounds Christian. Good job." I mean, that's be the baseline.
right.
So basic that we don't even notice. But
Well, so they weren't able to prove their case, right? So they didn't that's the thing. You can accuse anybody of anything where there's no evidence. You can't. It turns into slander, right? So um, I'm glad I'm glad for that, and I'm glad that we now have an official ACNA document which calls out uh, ACNA two and people like that or groups like that. So that's super. That's Merry Christmas to us for that. I mean, it's a good thing. Because now it's not. If you go into the dark corners of the internet, X, you'll see there's a whole group of a nest of people who think that if you criticize the HNA2 in any way, that you are an abuser yourself. Um, so not because of anything you've done, but because of the accusations against or the critique of the HNA2. Um, so there's several people out there who are I don't know if they have a job or they just spend most of their day like monitoring my writing and commenting on how I should be disciplined because I critiqued and I continue to critique HNA two. So I'm going to keep doing it. And
ACNA to Delanda.
yeah, Delonda S. Absolutely. Um, and we're hoping for maybe we should start one, an advocacy group that is not beholden to critical theory.
Yeah. I have no idea how to do that, but
I mean, do we have the time? So it would be nice. We should add this to our prayers for 12 days of Christmas. Is that something would happen like that? Right.
yeah, because I know that people are very poorly treated in their lives. That clergy sin, that bishops sin, that we sin against each other, and the fatherless and the widow should not be abandoned into the clutches of people who don't love Jesus. So
Right. Well, what's also sad too is this the overshadowing of the gospel. I
yeah.
I
Oh, that's what I wanted to say. That the problem with the sort of abuse victim model as we have it is that you are allowed not only to make everybody into an abuser abused, or, a victim or an abuser, but you derive a sense of virtue from hating people who don't agree with you ideologically. Like that becomes part of the package, is that you slander and malign and harbor in your heart hatred towards people who don't agree with you.
This is the Episcopalian gospel was, look, we're on the right side of politics because we're smart and we're caring and we're compassionate. And the people who don't agree with us and don't embrace our leftist politics are stupid and bigots, right? So that was the gospel. That was the Episcopalian gospel, and that's what the gospel is in Christ our Advocate. That's what that is the quote unquote woke gospel. We are righteous and we are smart, and if you agree with us, you're stupid and you're a bigot. And boy, that's justifying, isn't it? If you're on the right side of that and you believe that, then you're justified by virtue of your opinions, by virtue of the sermons you listen to, by virtue of the church you go to, and the anti-ICE campaign you're involved in, or whatever it might be. That's your birth. That you are just. And so the sad thing is, you never have to. You never have to investigate your own. You never have to interrogate your own heart. Uh, you become a Pharisee, right? Because the Pharisees didn't do that either. They were saying the right things. I mean, as much as the other side, as much as the left throws on the Pharisee label, the best and easiest avenue to becoming a Pharisee is to drop the gospel. Is to apply the wrong law, or to apply the law to everyone else but yourself. When you apply the law of God to yourself, you recognize you're a sinner and you say, I need Jesus for my own salvation. I don't need to be saved from those people's sins. I need to be saved from my sins. And that's what Jesus came to do. And if you
Yeah.
you've lost the gospel. Right.
Who died on the cross for your sins and rose again from the grave. Like,
Yeah.
don't also throw away the part where Jesus dies for sin, because
Yeah.
that usually goes away too. And that's the part everybody needs the most. Is the
Well,
part where Jesus died for your sins.
right. With your review of Marissa Burt's book, was it what the the idea of penal substitution is why people spank their children? Like,
Yeah.
like you're beating them to atone for their sins? What?
Well,
Where did that come
that's
from?
not what that's not what she said. But that she did say, which I was completely astonished by. I've been a Christian my whole life and I've never come across this, that the liturgy of spanking includes penal substitutionary atonement. I
Like,
can't I can't put the argument together.
I think you said
I
this. You
do
said
ha-
that
yeah, I
the
had to
child
look.
is atoning for his or her own sin by being spanked.
Yes.
And that's not what's going on. I mean, I don't know any
No,
parent who's that.
like I've never heard that before.
That's really sick. If someone's doing that, that's sick.
Yeah.
I
Her
mean, that is kind of abusive. If that's what they think is happening, okay, I can see why you think that's abusive. But
No. The way they describe spanking, absolutely don't do that to your kids, because that's psycho. Everything they say about spanking, they describe what they believe people to be doing, and they even quote people who talk about it. But the way they quote them makes it sound utterly psycho. For sure. Whatever they're saying that you're doing, you shouldn't do that. But that's not what anybody's doing. So,
let's see. James
let
Gibson
me
said
just,
they love to pull your quotes off X and publish them in articles without bothering to contact you for clarification or comment. Yeah, that was Julie Royce. She did that with you too, James. I believe James Gibson. She put some of your quotes in there, and I doubt she called you. She didn't call me. Um, but she is the go-to journalist for the Me Too movement. I think at this point, she's put herself.
yeah, but she's the clowning herself because, I mean, her stuff about the SBC is just manifestly like,
Yeah.
there's everybody can. This is the part I don't understand. And then I really have to run on to the next thing. Everybody can see everything online. Like, you can see everything that happened with Jennifer Lyell and that whole stuff. Megan Basham, you can see what Megan Basham did. There's screenshots of stuff, and they're not AI generated. Similarly, with ACNA and Bishop Buck, increasingly we can see the stuff that's there. So when you say outlandish and crazy things, or I mean, take Marissa Burke's um, parenting book. We were all around for James Dobson. Like, we can see where he was a little weird,
I thought he was great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to litigate it because he was a Christian. So I'm not gonna, anyway, as I said, I'm not gonna litigate people who aren't, uh, oh, wait, there's more comments. Anyway, I'm getting confused, but you can see the stuff online. So Julie Royce should write better because we can go check out what she's saying and see that she's misrepresenting
Okay,
the
so wait,
entire
wait,
thing.
before you said it, James says actually it was an ACNA2 activist who wrote the article that Julie Royce published on her website with my face plastered across it. Okay, that makes more sense. Although that is typical Julie Royce, she would do the same things. But yeah, we weren't contacted anyway.
Okay, and then wait, Bethany says that she's going to send me an article about the Odyssey, mentions Aiden's illustration.
Oh,
Awesome.
cool, great,
Send it along. We got our coffee, and I do have to run, but I want to
substantive book. It's
say, yeah, it's fat, and
yeah.
the pictures are great. Aiden is going to come on my live stream, I think next week, and this live stream, I'm going to interview him about his artistic process and many art things, and he has never been on a podcast before, and I've never interviewed. Well, we did interview our children a couple of years ago, but I think it's going to be really great. We're going to have a good time with him. So,
We interviewed them about the spanking thing because
yeah,
that was what it was about. Because I was being called an abuser because we spanked our children
yeah,
from
yeah.
them. So we had them on.
And they sat around and laughed. They laughed. So we played the clips of that guy,
Yeah,
and they just fell about laughing. Well, no, Aiden is maybe going to draw bits of the Gilead. I
maybe
don't know.
because that's not
Maybe
saying anything before it's a deal is done. Never
that's
counted
true.
money.
We're
Play
not counting
the
our money
table.
until we're attached.
Wait till
But he is talking to a couple of people about different projects, so it looks like he's going to still be drawing.
would be cool though.
It would be awesome.
Especially since his first two letters of his name are like Ainid and Aiden. So,
Yeah. Okay, I'm not done shopping, so I have to go. It's pitch black, but I will now venture forth once more into the great beyond. And we wish you all a very happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. I might blog a little here and there this week, but that depends on how well my shopping goes. But anyway, Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you all for reading and listening. May God bless you and give you a very happy time. Bye, everyone. Merry Christmas.
this